On the computer screen, what I've done looks like this. One boundary is selected and one's not, so I'm going to hit the escape key on the keyboard. Both of these are now blue, which indicates that they're boundaries, and this mimics our pinwheel. So we can check our point, our line and our curve and see if they're as we wish them to be. If I click this pattern, its properties come up. These are properties that I have as defaults. Stitches per inch for custom quilts, I use 12. Pattern speed, I normally run at 80, but these are point to points, so I want them to run slower. So I'm going to pick 40%. So I clicked with the left mouse button and to highlight this, and then I typed in 40 on my keypad. And I want to change also the 47 and 9 are competitive tie stitch out, tie-offs, competitive tie-offs. The width of the pattern is not going to make a difference because of the points where we make them is where it's going to be. 0.5 is ½ inch, that's the size we made that curve. Freeze aspect forces the height and width to remain at the same ratio. Now, I'm going to click it with freeze aspect on just to show you, and then we're going to turn it off as well. Margin, we don't need any margin. We're going to say 0 for margin. Okay, the line, we need to say also 0 margin. Oops. 0 margin. We're going to leave freeze aspect on, and we're going to change the speed. We want the speed to only be 40. Okay, so we're ready to click this. All right, to do point-to-point concatenation, you select the first pattern and then you control click the second pattern. So we have them both selected. So now we want to mimic this on the screen. So I'm not doing this at the head. I'm just going to click it here on the screen. So we're going to do draw sewable point-to-point pattern. Okay, because those are patterns. Okay, we want grid snap off, so I touch the grid, the G on the keyboard to turn grid snap off, so you can see down here that it's not depressed anymore, it's off. So the way I would click this on the quilt, I would start in the center. So I'm clicking with the left mouse button in the center, I click on the corner of the person's triangle, and I click back in the center. So it does a curve out, straight line back, curve out, straight line back, curve out, straight line back. I'm going to right click to end and right click to get out of the draw P2P pattern function. So this is what I've created. If this is what I want, then I'm good. Okay, so what I'm going to do is select my pattern. So I just click and drag my mouse across it to select it. I'm just going to move it over here and just leave it for a second. Okay, so what I really want to do is show you the difference between point to point with freeze aspect on and with it off. Okay, so let's do it with it off. So I just left clicked on the curve 2 pattern. I got its properties here, and I'm going to change freeze aspect and make it be off. Same thing for the line, freeze aspect, off. Okay, then we're going to select the first pattern in the list, and we're going to control, click. Let me get my cursor over here. Okay. All right, select the first pattern, control, click the second. Okay, then we're going to do draw sewable point-to-point pattern. And remember, this is just because we're doing it on the screen. On the head, we'll do a different function. I'll show you. So we're going to start in the center, click, here for the curve, here for the straight line, here for the curve, straight line, and CS6 is doing a concatenation function for us, alternating these two patterns. I'm clicking in it clockwise, you see, around, so the curves end up on the correct side of the triangle, which is where my blue fabric is on my quilt. Right click to end, and right click again to exit out of the function. Now, you see the difference here. With freeze aspect off, my curves are more shallow, and they're actually fitting better in the triangles. I prefer freeze aspect off and not on. So we are going to click this out on the quilt with freeze aspect off, just as we have it right now. To do this, I'm going to add a new quilt group because it's just easy, and click OK, because I don't want those to stitch out. So if I had those on the screen, it would want to stitch those. So to get kind of a clear stitch area, we can just get a new quilt group. Or I could select those and delete them. Now to actually click this on the quilt, we're going to use this, which is the point-to-point function from the head. So we're going to make sure in our pull-down arrow here that we're on pattern, not line, because these are patterns. We have them over here in the list, and they're patterns. So when I click and activate the point-to-point pattern function, I'm now going to move to the head and relate these patterns to the quilt, and I'll show you how that looks.